Right, cool. So this is life cycle costing. Again, we're really looking at costing techniques, right? And again, like I say, we've looked at throughput, which is sort of gives us advisory on how to deal in the short term. We've talked about activity-based costing, which is one way of apportioning costs, as we sort of talked about its evolution from traditional traditional absorption costing. Then we talked about environmental management accounting, which looks at processes, if you like, to ensure we can capture all these environmental hidden costs, internal and external, using typically the input output method and also the materials flow um, accounting method. So life cycle costing sort of acknowledges a few things. It's really a mixture of advisory and actual sort of looking for a rational benchmark. It isn't actually the answer. When I say it's not the answer, you don't actually work out a life cycle cost and say that's the figure we're going to use. No, because of the life cycle of a product. So the reality is what we're going to go through, but it's important to kind of have a way of trying to work out some average price or average cost, forgive me, of a product. So let's go. So what are we saying? So you see, the problem is that typically, right, we always think of, we build our costs around, if you like, years. We budget in years. Even if we say 5 years, I don't think you've ever heard anyone say, right, we make 10 million units, 5 million units, 3 million units over the next 5 years. And what they do is they add up all the costs and add up all the units over that period. We never do that, right? We would talk about what's going on in a year and then work out, kind of break down the budget that way. I mean, strategically, we might want know what's going on over 5 years, but we don't sort of add all the individual products and then do that, no. So, but life cycle costing does, because a product does go through, if you like, a life cycle, and at different times in its life you will charge differently and you will cost differently. And I think that's what the message really is with life cycle costing, this change that's occurring, and that's what we're looking at. But overall, it's nice to have an average. So let's shoot. Traditionally costing techniques are based around annual periods, which may give a misleading impression of the costs and profitability of product. And again, like I say, this is because systems are based around this financial accounting year and separate product life cycle into a series of annual sections. And usually, therefore, management accounting systems would assess this on a periodic basis rather than over its entire life. Life cycle costing sort of looks and sees what's happening over the life of a project, and we know that I might do this in 2 videos. A product's costs are not evenly spread through its life. We know that very early on in the life of a project, a lot of costs have gone in. And we'll see examples of them in a second. But you can see here, as you can imagine, which is what it is, right? All the hard work goes in to the making of this product. You spend all this time making this product, pushing this product, and then you want it to sell. So the fear generally, right, is that you've done all this hard work, someone comes along and just copies what you've done. So according to these 2 characters, Berliner and Ripson, companies operating in advanced manufacturing will see that 90% of their product lifecycle costs are made early in the cycle. And I mentioned earlier on that a large fraction of the life cycle costs consist of costs incurred on product design, prototyping, if you like, programming, process design, and equipment acquisition. So all those costs happening at the early on. So really, strategically, the argument is you want to recoup this as soon as possible, because of the nature of most industries. That is that as soon as you've entered, other people will see that that this area is profitable and they'll want to come into that market as well. So this has created a need to ensure that the tightest controls are at the, if you like, the design stage, if you like, to make sure, because you're locked in, aren't you, at this point, There's nothing you can almost do about it. So, management accounting should therefore be developed to aid. Again, we're about planning, control, targets. Our aim is to monitor the spending at the early stages of its life. So again, like we highlight here, you can see this is a product, your classic life cycle, and you have here what's going on at introduction, all that effort that we've just seen earlier on, process design, equipment acquisition, blah blah blah, all happening all over here. And we want to be controlling these costs. And the argument is about 90% of the costs are happening here. So pre-production, product development, high level of setup costs, R&D, all of that, product design, all happening here. Then you have your launch. Again, the key point here is that now you have this extensive marketing, extensive promotion. So the argument again is we want to be able to recoup our costs. We want to be sure we can recoup our costs. Again, it's all about strategy. The question here is that do we go with the pricing strategy of, it depends on your market. If you're Apple, well, you're not going to sort of, you're going to price skim, if you like, as you can imagine, because you can take, you have loyal customers, they will pay whatever it is. So you don't go in sort of trying to dip into the market and market penetrate by dropping your costs. No, so it's more about pricing strategy than just worrying about whether you need to go to ground and charge as cheaply as possible to gain a new market. But that might be a different strategy for a different product. So this you have to really be aware of what your market is ultimately. What's your market? And then of course we have growth. So this is now, I mean, the whole idea is, right, you've come into this market and you might be here and there might be all of this and you're thinking, well, listen, I can grow, I can take the whole market, and there might be other people in the market, but I can take them out because I have a better product. So you ultimately want to gain as much market share, you want to gain as much market presence, if you like, and take as much as a share, if you like, of this pie, so to speak. So the question is, what is the potential demand? It could be, I don't know, whatever, 60 million or 60 billion. And the question is, you might currently only control very little of it and you want a lot of it. Where are we? Marketing promotion will continue throughout the stage. Sales volume increases dramatically. So the whole idea you got into this business is because you believe there's growth, you believe there's potential. And that's what we're sort of saying. And we argue that the product will eventually you reach a point where hopefully you're stable. You can't continue to charge because other people are coming into the program. So you have to, again, price competition and product differentiation will start to erode profitability as firms compete for the limited customers remaining. Other people are coming in, and the time comes where you have to think pricing again. So again, like I say, it's pricing strategy throughout. Your pricing is changing as you're going along, because if a product is on its way out, you can't keep charging the same prices you charged at maturity and at growth levels. You can't do that, right? You won't be able to attract. Your product is not as hot as it used to be. Yeah, so again, you might choose to do a few other things. You might choose to reinvest in the product and do different things. But the key point really is that what do we do to be there as long as possible with this product life cycle? Like all products, like all things, maximize life as possible. Try and reduce the cost by monitoring the cost, the early development costs. If I can monitor those and bring those down, that's the key point. If we can reduce those costs as much as we can, minimize time, if you like, to market. If you like, we want to get the product into the marketplace as quickly as possible because competitors are watching us. Maximize the length of the cycle. Of course, if we can stay at maturity for a long time, it can stay in growth. If we can be in this area for as long as we can, that's what we want, isn't it? Because like you see here, once the product goes into decline, it technically becomes unprofitable. We've talked about this, getting the product to market as quickly as possible, looking for other strategies to use the product in other ways, and as part of other combinations with other products. We are here, on the other hand, we're possible to plan for a staggered entry into different markets. Yeah, I mean, if you can go into different markets, again, it's all very much your strategy. Right, okay, great. And again, so the key point here in terms of pricing, high prices are charged to recoup high development costs, high returns before competitors enter the market. Growth competition increases, sales slow down, market prices maintained, upgrades in new markets should be considered. So this is very much where your ANSOF, if you remember anything like that, comes in. You need to start deciding, what am I going to do to remain? You've matured somewhat, and what am I doing to do? This is very much a growth strategy. Now, what are we going to do? We can't keep. Am I going to stay in the same market? Are we going to find new markets? Are we going to do new products? Are we just going to just do new products and go into different markets? So that's what's kind of going on over here with your pricing. We've talked about this already. Because in your decline, superior products will appear, and our prices must be cut to maintain sales. There is a question for us to do, and I'll do that if you like in the second part of this video. Okay, great stuff.